If our boy Pickle had techniques, would he be the strongest character in the entire Buckyverse? Stronger than the likes of Yujiro Hanma? Stronger than the likes of Musashi and Bucky? What do you think? Let me know down below. I'll break this question down and go over this possibility throughout today's video. First up, Pickle kinda used techniques throughout his arc in the anime and manga. If you remember his strength exchange with Yujiro at the start of the arc, Yujiro was being overpowered and then performed some type of move on him that actually flipped Pickle over. After that, we get a scene of Pickle thinking about what occurred throughout this. Then later in the manga, when Pickle is having an interaction with the likes of Hanayama, as Hanayama was looking for Pickle for the likes of Bucky, we see a scene between Bucky and Pickle, which is very interesting, and the anime provided more context and I guess more accurate translations, and it does look good for our boy Pickle. The statements that while Pickle's body was perfectly adapted for the sole purpose of fighting, which isn't crazy, we all know Pickle is simply built different, it also somehow, some way, allowed Pickle to attain full mastery of the modern martial art of Aikido, with him shocking Bucky in the scene, as he does pretty much the same thing Yujiro did to Pickle at the start of this arc here. So in that time span, Pickle was able to master the modern martial art of Aikido. Does that mean his potential for martial arts are also amongst the top in the verse? Very possibly. Also considering Pickle would proceed to use kinda a technique at the end of his main fight against Bucky. Bucky, throughout the majority, was beating Pickle up to an insane degree, then decided to have a stamina or strength exchange with Pickle alone, no techniques being used. That's where Bucky got overwhelmed. Then we have the scene of Pickle actually grabbing him and using what is perceived to be a technique to actually defeat Bucky in this scene here, with us getting perspectives from both Hanayama and Retsu, who have differing opinions on the pretty much circumstances of Pickle using the technique here, and what it actually means for his reign of raw power. But that's not really as important. The main thing is Pickle may have used a technique here. Let me know what you think about this down below, and make sure to subscribe for more Bucky content. Check out my recent videos going over Pickle vs Yujiro and Pickle vs the other monsters in the Buckyverse he didn't fight in the series already. We all know currently when it comes to raw strength, Pickle is amongst the strongest in the verse and can be argued to be number one. You could potentially say a similar thing for the likes of durability, and I would say that is more likely the case, as techniques kinda amplify the power and pretty much impact and efficiency of various characters' attacks. So when it comes to the amount of damage you can actually do to someone, that may be limited by his lacking of techniques, but Pickle's durability is without a doubt top notch. Speed as well, I wouldn't say he's pretty much in the top 3 when it comes to speed, as people like Yujiro, Bucky, as we clearly saw in their fight, and Musashi are way above the likes of Pickle. But Pickle could probably outspeed and honestly blitz a lot of the other characters. This was actually shown throughout his arc, being able to take out Retsu with this move. Katsumi was still able to land attacks on him when he was doing this, however in the end durability was the main difference. And then if you remember his Jack fight, Jack was landing these punches and Pickle would bounce back against the wall and return without Jack even understanding what happened. That's how fast Pickle can actually go. However, of course, these characters got much stronger since that arc and of course much faster. And Bucky demonstrated superior speed during that arc as well. That whole scene, speed beyond the concept of speed itself, which was kinda also agreed on in the anime's adaptation of this as well, which is kinda crazy. Something us Bucky fans love to mention in any like crossverse battle, mentioning Bucky characters, Bucky doing this, kinda being upheld in the anime translations as well. You love to see it. However, now coming back to the main question, how strong would Pickle be if he had mastery over techniques? To answer this, it really comes down to his degree of mastery, as the characters who most of the fandom believe have the ability to defeat Pickle and should defeat him if they had an all-out fight include Yujiro Hanma, Bucky Hanma, and Musashi as the ones a majority of people agree with. These 3 are known for one thing, all around top of the verse. Yujiro, when it comes to raw strength, is probably number 1 or number 2 next to Pickle. When it comes to techniques, he's probably number 1 in the verse. Speed, once again, he's number 1 or number 2. You could maybe argue Baki or Musashi could be number 1. Then when it comes to them two, they're like fighting for number 2, number 3. It's most likely the case that these 3 characters are relative to one another in abilities, meaning they can fight on an even playing field and have close fights, with of course advantages and more likely outcomes going to the likes of Yujiro Hanma, leaving Pickle in a little bit of a weird position. For example, we all know he was able to defeat the likes of Katsumi, Retsu and Jack during his arc. Jack, while being a character on the rise now in the current story and is being set up to have a rematch with most characters or fights with most characters, which includes the new version of Pickle we've yet to see actually fight and what he's capable of. But for an example, let's say Jack fights Pickle before he fights Baki. In this fight, Jack ends up being the winner, but coming out of it, we get it portrayed that Pickle, when it comes to durability and strength, is still superior to Jack. Speed wise, we'll say they're about the same. The only difference is when it comes to technique. Due to Jack's recent mastery of biting in his Gyudo, he's able to slowly whittle down Pickle throughout this fight and take him out in that way. Then when Jack has a fight with Baki, what if they're pretty much relative when it comes to speed as well? That would upgrade Pickle immensely. And also when it comes to strength, they could be the same. The main difference between the two is how they use their techniques and their way of fighting. Jack's biting versus Baki's, I guess, endless amount of techniques he could potentially use, his imagination, dinosaur stances, all that. That will determine who's going to win in their fight most likely. But if the speed is relative after we see all of this, we could have some new juicy arguments for the likes of Pickle. However, all this depends on certain things happening in the story, and all of this most likely won't occur. So for now, it's just some interesting things to think about regarding the future of the Baki manga. Let's say Pickle had technique mastery on the same level as someone like Retsu. Not on the same level as the top 3 in the verse, but someone who's respected greatly and is of course very skilled. That in combination with Pickle's other stats would still make him an absolute monster. Would it make him enough of a monster to defeat someone like Yujiro or Baki? The unfortunate thing is, it might not actually be enough. Yujiro is so much stronger than the likes of most other characters in the series. The amount he can actually grow in strength and the amount of techniques we haven't actually seen him use, just having statements that he's mastered everything, is quite crazy to think about. Even with the likes of Baki, he praises Sukune to an immense degree, but still defeats him in 10 seconds due to his insane speed and mastery of techniques, meaning the only way Pickle is going to get a chance is if his strength and durability and speed get an insane buff above the likes of all these characters, or his technique ability is on the same level as them, but that's just not going to happen in the story, meaning without superior speed and strength, him learning a few techniques won't really make a huge difference for where Pickle currently sits in the verse. Top 5, but sadly not top 3, especially now as I'm on Jack's side for their rematch in the future of the story. That's everything for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Patreon Mad Lads, as always, shout out to you. That's it guys. Peace.